Norah, congratulations to you. I know this is your second book. I remember back in the day you did Baby Love. But as I was reading it, I was thinking, I went proud, 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 wow, wow, wow. Then I went mad, mad, mad. Of all of the things, and the women that you highlight in the book, you describe them as complicated, imperfect, but they didn't take no for an answer.
You know, women in history are so important to the shaping of this country. And we're celebrating 250 years of America this year since the Declaration of Independence. And yet my own understanding of women in history is so limited. And that's kind of embarrassing and shocking, but I wasn't taught that. Women are footnotes to history, and instead of being the centerpiece of our studies.
I like the variety, too, of the women that you decided. I mean, we won't name a lot of names, but one who stood out to me was Patience Lovell-Wright, a sculptor who used to do wax bust of people, but to warm it, she would warm it between her thighs.
Well, the important story about Patience Lovell-Wright is that she was a spy at the beginning of the American Revolution.
That part.
She was
and mother of four, I think.
Yes, and talking to King George, but was a sculptor, and sending back information. But the point is that so many women were early patriots and revolutionaries in American history, and yet they don't get the praise that they deserve.
Yes.
Well, you know, I look at this book and it really does show that the lack of education about women that are so important historically, it really shapes the way we, and I would say men, see ourselves, see this country, and it blows me away that we still have not had a woman president. And if you just look at some of the data sets on women in positions of leadership and what it does for profitability, what it does for revenue, just what it does for overall performance, yet and still we're hesitant to put women at the helm when we've seen historically what happens. Why do you think that is? And do you think we are ready for a woman to be president of this country?
Nate, it is such a good point. It's one that Warren Buffett makes as well. Exactly what you are saying about we know women in leadership affect outcomes. We know that actually you are likely to have a better outcome if you have a female surgeon. The studies are that. And now we do know that women are a majority of medical school graduates. But I write about the first woman to graduate from medical school in this book. I write about Belva Lockwood, who was the first woman to run for president in 1884 and 1888, the first woman ever to argue before the U.S. Supreme Court. And yet still in 2026, we don't have a woman who's president of the United States. But I think to your point, too, this book is about the struggle. You know, democracy is a struggle, and it has been for women, for people of color, for indigenous or Native American people in this country, have been fighting to live up to the promises in the Declaration of Independence that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And women said all men and women are created equal.
And there's a woman's name on the Declaration of Independence. I did not know that.
Mary Catherine Goddard. You know, think about that. Women have been trying to write themselves into history as well for a long time. And I think it's time we acknowledge them and hold them up.
Acknowledgement and education.
All right. So, Norah, I want to do a little bit of a lightning round with you because what you said was super interesting about the fact that there are stories in this book that you perhaps didn't know yourself until you started researching this book. Okay. So, lightning round. The phrase, we've all heard it, behind every great man is a great woman. What's the best example of that?
Emily Warren Roebling. You know the Brooklyn Bridge, when it was built, was considered the 8th wonder of the world. I know you cross it every day, Vlad. Well, of course, her husband was actually injured and infirm, so who finished the bridge? She was the chief engineer.
Her husband and father-in-law were both.
And here she finished that bridge. So there is a plaque about her by the Brooklyn Bridge, but this is a great example of a woman finishing the job, and she was the first to cross it.
I did not know that.
All right. What is your favorite historic first?
My favorite, Dr. Mary Edwards Walker. To this day, a Civil War surgeon in the Army, the only woman to this day who has ever received the Medal of Honor, which is the highest award for anyone. There's been more than 3,500 men in combat who've received this, never a woman except Dr. Mary Edwards Walker, the first surgeon in the Army during the Civil War. She famously, of course, wore pants, was known as the first person to wear pants, and she said, I don't wear men's clothes, I wear my own clothes.
Yeah, first, it made me think of your sister, who's also a surgeon
in the Army.
And her name is Mary.
And her name, that's right. All right, women throughout the book, and just in our nation's history and all around the world, have dealt with inappropriate or sexist comments. What's the best comeback you've ever come across in researching this?
Well, I don't know how many people remember Congresswoman Pat Schroeder.
Yes.
A Harvard Law graduate,
Yes.
was elected in the early 70s. And people would ask her, well, how are you going to be able to be a congresswoman and have children? And she said, you know what? I have a brain and a uterus, and I use both.
Yes.
So, but anyway,
great.
if you have ever taken parental leave from your job, you can thank Congresswoman Pat Schroeder.
That's a
for
clapback
A
right
brain
there.
and a uterus, and they're both working. Nora, congratulations. And tonight we're going to continue our conversation. We thank you for sharing the stories. You can learn more about the remarkable women in Nora's book, We the Women, the Hidden Heroes Who Shaped America. Scan your QR code. Nora and I continuing the conversation tonight.